Here we go. Welcome, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast online radio, TV, and blab network, restoring vitality to you and to the planet. I'm Scott Patton. On the side here is Martin Patella, life coach at lifeenthusiast.com. Welcome, Martin. How are you doing today?
Hello, doing good. At least the energy's good. I'm fine, and my brain is bright. The neurons
Your brain is bright. No brain frog.
No brain frog.
Or Bane frog.
Bane frog. No, man. Okay, hello everyone. We're probably giddy on life.
Giddy on life. That's right. Always fun to get together with you, and I just love the blab. It just gives us a chance to actually see each other as we talk back and forth, and it's always really cool. So we're going to talk today about the fallacy of the double-blind study. So I guess we need to start off with, what is the double-blind study?
Right. So in the mainstream medical terrain, they always stress that they have a proof of something being statistically significant, meaning this: when they test the drug, the chemical drug, the toxic thing that the pharmaceutical company wants to put into your body, they need to prove beyond reasonable doubt statistically significant change between taking it and a placebo. And a placebo is taking a sugar pill that contains none of the toxin, and the other is the person taking the thing. And the double-blind part comes in that the person administering the thing that's being tested doesn't know who's getting what. So if Scott was playing the doctor and I was playing the tester, Scott would be giving me the pills without knowing whether what he's giving me is the good thing or the bad thing.
Or the not good
or bad. What I mean is active or not active.
So I have a drug here. I think this is going to work really good. I have another thing that looks like the drug here that won't have any impact at all. I don't know. I put the hands behind my back. I have no idea which one you're getting, although somebody must. And then you get one of those two, and then you either get really, really well, and they say it's because of the drug, or you don't get really, really well, and they say it's because you didn't take the drug, or vice versa, or you get sick, and they say, well, the drug actually makes you sicker, and there you go.
Right, and so here's the statistically significant. It really should be better than placebo. Here's the funny part. So usually the placebo gets about 30%, meaning 30% of people who take the placebo get better. So the drug is supposed to be significantly better than placebo, so that would mean at least 50%, they would wish for that, would get better. And that to them would be significant. But
so they can then say that it's 2/3 better or 66% better than the placebo.
Right. So let's talk about statistically significant. So I tell you that such and such drug doubled your chance of survivor of 5 years past the application.
Okay, good. That wonderful.
Sounds real significant, right?
Double my chances. Okay, I'm happy with that.
Here's the actual result. Not taking the drug, 2 people died out of 100. Taking the drug, 1 person died out of 100. Is that really significant? You doubled your chances.
So how we look at the numbers makes a big difference on how they get interpreted.
Right. So you need to understand the big picture versus how we serve it. Statistics can be manipulated in ways that can boggle the mind. So it's always important to ask your doctor, what is the whole life benefit of me doing this? So for instance, taking chemotherapy for breast cancer will extend your life by 5 months. That's the average number.
Yeah, my cousin just did that.
Right. So is that a good way or bad way to go? So if you could put yourself into what happens with chemotherapy, so you're going to feel miserable through the process. You're going to have significant loss of quality of life. You're going to have significant issues like hair falling out and stuff. And at the end of all that, you have improved your average outcome by 5 months. Take it, not take it. So the whole life benefit of the chemotherapy is great to the chemotherapy company. It's not much to you. But let me talk to you about what I really meant to talk about, which is the fallacy of this, right? Like this is the statistics, the whole life benefit, which may or may not be significant or not significant. But regardless of that, here's what really happens. We need to understand the metabolic typing and how people are. So here in my binder, look at this. We have a picture. I think now it's on the screen. And so at the top, you would see that we have autonomic dominance. And at the bottom, we have the oxidizer dominance. And on this side, we will see the people who are mainly acidic. And on that side, we'll see people that are mainly alkaline. So why am I bringing this up? Well, because the chemical would be either parasympathizing or sympathizing, either alkalizing or acidifying. But
so it's making you one or the other.
Yeah, it will have. So let's just say this: if we take something that's rich in carbohydrates, like a banana, if we administer a banana to this person, he will become less ornery. He will be pacified. He'll move in this direction. And so instead of being argumentative, will become more pleasant. If, on the other hand, we give this banana to this person, he'll travel all the way up to here. Oh, I'm off the screen, all the way up to here somewhere. And that will mean that he'll just become depressed. So if, for instance, I put some magnesium into this person, I'll calm them down. If I put magnesium in this person, I could make them depressed if they don't need it. Likewise here, this person will be made more, travel in this direction. So if we start from here, we go off the chart into bad territory. This is negative impact. If we start from here, that's a positive impact. If we start from here, that's positive impact. If we start from here, that's negative impact. How's that for fun? So I have, for instance, here a table with specific supplements, right? I'll show it to you in just a sec here. So here, you can try and read it or take a screenshot of it if you want, but here's the point. So if you happen to be a fast oxidizer, the vitamin B3 you should be taking is niacinamide. If you happen to be slow oxidizer, you should be taking niacin. 2 different forms, 2 different effects. Or 2
different forms of the same vitamin.
Yes. Or, for instance, if you're a fast oxidizer, you should be taking extra vitamin B5. If you're a slow oxidizer, you should be taking extra vitamin B6. So, on our test, if I push vitamin B6 on a fast oxidizer, it's not going to have a positive effect. If I push it on slow oxidizer, it's going to have a very positive effect. What have I accomplished? I've accomplished to prove a point that if a statistical sample of the population that is being tested is skewed one way or another based on their biological individuality, you end up with results. So if I test vitamin C on one group, it's going to do great things. And if I test it on another group, it's going to be insignificant. And how this is going to work is going to actually depend on the biological individuality of the people in the sample group that are being tested.
And it's not likely that they're going to be random that way.
There may be, if the sample is large enough. But so then when the sample is large enough, we end up with everybody. I'll tell you, I'll give you an example of me being an average person. If I was average, I would have blonde hair on this half, dark hair on this half. I would have one breast, one testicle, one ovary, and the hair would be growing on half of my face. Because that's average, men, women. Oh, maybe I would be a little black and a little Swedish.
Right.
That's average.
So nobody is average.
No. Everybody's individual. Everybody's their own specific biological individuality. And this is where the whole thing falls apart. Because when you give the thing to me, I'm going to react according to my biological individuality. So in your statistical sample, I'm either going to be positive, negative, or neutral.
And so what you're saying is in that sample, if you take two people, okay, so that would be, the average would be in between them somewhere.
Yes.
And what it's going to do is it's going to make one person more acidic or alkaline.
Yes,
it's going to
correct.
make the other person opposite. And it may help the person that makes more alkaline, but it's not going to help the person that makes more acidic.
Right. Exactly right. So when you test the efficacy of vitamin B6 on a large group of people, depending on how many slow oxidizers and sympathetics you had in relation to the parasympathetics and fast oxidizers, you will either have a proof that it works, or proof that it's negative, or proof that it doesn't do anything. And then you can publish your data and say, oh, this stuff is great, is detrimental, or is insignificant.
Where there could be a portion of the population where it's very good for, and another portion of the population where it's very bad for.
Precisely. And hence my rant about the fallacy of the double-blind study, because what they don't do is take into account the biological individuality of the person upon which this is being tested.
So I guess that makes the assumption that something like an antibiotic will make me more acidic or more alkaline. Right.
So the antibiotic is probably a universally applicable place where this scientific method will likely work, because the antibiotic will either kill that particular specific bug or not. So you use a wonderful example of where it probably works.
Okay, because in that particular case, we're looking at viruses or bacteria or parasites or something that's living in you that has, it's probably pretty similar if it's living in me and it's living in you, even if we're opposites in terms of our biological diversity.
What I don't know is how your internal terrain is before and after the situation. Right? So it could be that one person can do just fine with the antibiotic and the other will have a significant wipeout in the gut that will send them into a very complicated set of unforeseen circumstances. And that's where we get side effects, right?
Right.
And so we have people who can stand it just fine, and we have people for whom it's a life-altering crisis.
So how would we know how that, I mean, how would we be able to tell in advance that you shouldn't be putting this into your system because it's going to wipe out all the good bacteria as well as all the bad bacteria, and it's going to give you a huge problem? And even if it did, what would it look like for the person, right? Because, I mean, when you think about it, it's like, this is an antibiotic. You have an infection. Here's the doctor. He says, take it. You take it, and it wipes everything out. So now, okay, I'm not so tired. I'm tired. My immune system is low and everything else. I don't necessarily connect it to taking the antibiotic. Right. Something that happened.
Yeah, that's one point. And the other one is the consequences of it, right? So it may wipe out significantly and successfully the thing that you targeted, but it will also wipe out several other things. And so in one person, it may send you over the edge in that direction. In another person, it will be just fine.
So we end up having this random sample of people who get worse off because of the medications that they're taking and don't realize that they are.
That's correct. Yep, that's well put. So you asked, what would we know and how would we do it? Well, it's an imprecise method, but it's probably the only method we have, which is the energetics. It's the kinesiology, the testing. And there are multiple ways. The most common one is testing of the strength of an arm. Like they push on you and say something truthful, like, my name is Martin. It holds. Say something wrong, like, my name is Hitler. And the strength is gone. And that effect lasts about 2 to 4 seconds. So on a false statement, you're weaker. On a truth statement, you're stronger. So when I say, oh, I don't have something handy, but let's pretend that this is a product, and I take the product, I put it into my energy field, and then I say, it immediately either makes me weaker or stronger. And we can prove this. Like, you can pick up a jar of pure sugar and put it here. I can promise you 100% it's going to make you weaker. You can take refined salt. It will make you weaker. So you take the product that you're thinking of taking and you do a muscle test. So that's the same thing. It's really done with the arm extended way out there. So you get a friend, you take the product in here, and the friend pushes down on your arm. Now, if you want to learn it, you can use just a tiny little thing. Like for myself, I just pull my thumb to my little finger, pinky, and then I test the strength of it. So we can say, my name is Martin. It holds. My name is Hitler. It doesn't. It breaks. And so I can say, it is good for me to eat wheat. Not so good. It is good for me to eat oats. Not so good. It is good for me to eat barley. Okay. It's good for me to take vitamin C at 1,000 grams. That's a wrong number. 1,000 milligrams. It's good for me to take 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C every day. Strong, right?
Strong.
So you need to learn how to test yourself. And it takes a bit of practice. It's not a big deal. Just do it.
I just can't imagine going into my doctor and having him say, okay, Scott, let's see. Put out your arm. Oh, okay, that's good. Oh, okay, that's good. Here's some medication I think you need. Oh, no, that's not good for you. It's pretty outside the realm of what you would expect from the medical establishment. And before we get into that, I want to tell a really interesting story of the second time that I had ever had any experience with muscle testing, which is what it's called. And I was in a group, and the gentleman that I was partnered up with was British, and he was from London, and we were down in the States somewhere. So he had flown over from London. I had flown down from Vancouver. We had never met before, never seen each other before, had no idea who the other person was. And so he's got his arms out like this, and we were actually counting back this year, last year, next year, the following, 2006, 2005, and seeing when he would go weak. And as we were doing it, he is going whiter and whiter and whiter. And of course, I don't know anything about him or anything. And so when we were done, we went for coffee, and he said, Scott, he said, you hit, in other words, meaning I pushed down and his arm went down. The year that I lost 3 million pounds of money.
Money,
The
not
year,
weight.
yeah, money, not weight. The year that I got divorced, the year that my son that I had not seen in 20 years came back into my life, and it went on and on. The year my company collapsed, the year and then it was mostly bad, but there was the odd good thing in there too. But it was just amazing. It says, all these years, nothing happened. It's held strong. And then you hit the year that my son that we gave up for adoption finally found us and came back into our life. Down it went. So it's very, very amazing to me, the intelligence of our body and what happens when you do the muscle testing. I'm absolutely a believer in the power of it.
Right. So there are other methods that work in this way. You will encounter them at a naturopathic office. There's this Vega testing, which is galvanic skin response. You will end up with a stick or electrode in your hand that goes over to a machine that is showing the current flowing through you. So you're conductive, and into the circuit goes the object. So this is between you and the measuring thing. It's in circuit. And so you will change your conductivity, or GSR, galvanic skin response. So based on the whatever's in there, it will either go happy, unhappy. So you can measure it this way. It's visual. And yet, Scott, we've lost you somehow. Are you still around? It looks like Scott's turned himself off for unknown reason. His connection disappeared. So I'll just carry on here. Or maybe not. Scott, what's going on with you? Sorry, technical difficulties.
Sorry about that. I moved my keyboard over, and I guess I hit escape or something. It shut the window down on me.
All right. So I was talking about...
now you can't hear me.
I hear you. I hear you. I can hear you. Technical stuff.
Now can you hear me?
I hear you. Yes, I can. It's that you cannot hear me, but I can hear you. Ha. So I'm not sure where we cut off, but here we are. I was talking about galvanic skin response that you will encounter in a naturopath's office or in alternative healthcare, where this sort of method is used. And what that does, it proves that your body has an electromagnetic field all around itself, and it's called aura. Some people actually see it. Last week we had David Pills on. He actually sees it.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Yeah. So he can tell you, oh, you have this hole over here, black hole over here. You have tumor or something. I don't know what that is, right? Or he can tell you, oh, you're nice and yellow, or you're going purple, or you're tight here. Or no, way out here, right? Like it's all this different stuff that a talented or gifted, I should say, person will see. And a gifted, trained alternative medicine practitioner, trained in traditional Chinese medicine, will do the pulses, right? Like they can measure the pulses, and they measure 3 pulses: surface, medium, and deep.
Mm.
And they know how your body is doing, and they can tell a lot from that. And a skilled kinesiologist, as an applied kinesiologist, somebody who does muscle testing well, will very quickly get to understanding whether you're on or off, switching, or that there's such a thing as reverse polarity. So you can flip where the yes will be a no and no will be a yes. But it can be tested for, and a skilled person will totally be able to tell you. So going back to the doctor who will want to prescribe to you this thing, well, you can, before you even take it, decide for yourself whether it's making you stronger or weaker. You can go into a grocery store and pick up the pear and the apple and the whatever, or you can just put your finger on it, like touch it with your circuitry going and test. Is it strong or is it weak?
Right. Test yourself in the soft drink aisle and in the potato chip aisle, and you'll be shocked at what happens.
Yeah, you won't find a thing that makes you stronger. Damn.
Yes, we need to retrain our taste buds.
Mm.
So what you're basically saying is that we go out, we do these double-blind studies, and from those double-blind studies, we discover that 2 people get better with the pill, 1 person gets better without the pill, and so you have it's twice as effective, even though it's only 1 person versus 2 people, and that the chances are that a certain percentage of the people that get that pill or put that thing into their body, it's not going to be helping because it works against the natural rhythm of their body and how their energy flows in their body, because they're either they move stuff through fast, they move stuff through slow. We're all kind of different. And where we can take responsibility is we can actually learn more about how our body works from our own experiences and from our own observations, as opposed to opening a book that's been written 100 years ago about how the blood flows and how this flows and how everything else flows. So therefore, ergo, this must happen, when in fact that's just a theory of medicine that unfortunately seems to be prevalent right now.
Right, exactly. So what we need to understand is that the result of taking a chemical will be unpredictable. That's the side effects. And so some people who have a problem of this sort will respond well to this drug and badly to another. And the doctor doesn't know ahead of time because he doesn't understand your individuality, whereas we can. There is this method, metabolic.
It's not even in the consciousness of the doctor that it's quite possible. Sometimes when I listen to stories, it's like this experiment is going on. You have some problem. Here is a pill. Take it. Come back in a week. Come back in a week. Do you feel better? Yes, no. And depending on your answer, well, yeah, I do feel better, but I feel better because this problem is gone, but I now have this problem, and which is the side effect. And then he says, okay, we'll take you off of that one. We'll put you on this one because this one, it doesn't seem to have that problem as much as the other one. And it's like they don't know, and they're just checking to find out. And it would be really nice if you could do something like muscle testing and say, oh yeah, like that's going to cause more problems down the road for me than this one, right?
Right. So that's one issue, that you could muscle test yourself on that chemical to see whether this is beneficial. Like you can make a statement. This thing that I'm holding is beneficial to me. That statement's either true or false. If it's true, you'll be stronger. If it's false, you'll be weaker.
Right.
So that's one method. The other method, of course, is that you actually do the metabolic typing. Like you can figure yourself out either the hard way, the long way, which is observe reactions, or you can go and take the metabolic typing test and figure out pretty quickly what you are, in which case I can tell you what supplements are right for you and what supplements are not, and what foods and how to construct your meals. Like Scott and I have had many discussions about, will this make me sleepy or will this make me argumentative?
Right. And I seem to have a bit of a habit around noon eating something that just puts me right to sleep. And like 2 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon, it's like, I have to have a nap.
Right. And that's because you're naturally more alkaline.
Yes.
Than not. And so whatever it is you do, and we know what that is, in your case, it's the carbohydrates that contribute.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to eat carbohydrates in the evening when they'll put you to sleep.
Right.
And you want to eat a lot of proteins in the first half of the day because they will be stimulating to you.
Yeah.
If I ate like that, if I eat proteins in the morning, I become an argumentative, short-tempered ogre, which, yeah, not good policy.
No.
So, and if I want to wake up, I eat more proteins and fats. But that's what people need to understand, that depending which system is dominant, you're either going to be alkalized by carbohydrates or alkalized by fats and proteins. But what you need to know is where you're starting from.
Right. And so the alkalization usually means you get quieter and sleep.
Calm sleep.
To the point of depression.
Yeah, at extreme depressed. So if you start from here and push in this direction, you go off the chart.
Mm-hmm.
What you're desiring is to start here and push toward here.
Right.
So you need to understand which does the pushing.
Right.
Because if you're starting from here, you want to push to here. If you're starting from here, you want to meet somewhere in the middle. Because in the middle, you're strong, balanced, non-nervous, anxiety, depression, nervousness, jitteriness, arguments, or whatever. All kinds of, not just emotional issues, are triggered by the balance or lack thereof.
Right. And I wanted to talk about the acidic and the alkaline a little bit, which is why I brought up the part about the alkaline. And then the other side of that is if you become too acidic, you become miserable and irritable and you have a hard time concentrating, road rage, all those sort of things happen. So right. In terms of general health, like if you're too acidic, are you creating an environment for things like cancer to occur? And if you're
there are two issues.
Okay.
The people who are naturally alkaline and alkalize themselves even more, they are threatened by things like leukemia or lymphoma, the non-tumor forming cancers.
Mm.
On the other hand, people who make themselves overly acidic indeed will likely end up with cancers that form tumors like colon cancer, ovarian, prostate, lung, breast, those types.
Okay.
And we have statistics that prove it. Like there's a wonderful doctor, his website's up still. It's called bloodph.com, Harold Crystal. And they went through thousands of charts to see what gets. And one group, one type will have 80% of the illness, while the other will only have 20. So it's 4 times, if not 5 times, as likely that you will indeed follow the type that you're with.
So how does that relate to sort of the other big problems that people have, which come to mind, are like heart disease?
Well, heart disease is primarily inflammatory. So you have inflammation that you're creating inside of the circulatory system. So you're creating both hardening of the arteries and clogging of the arteries. So the hardening, that's aging process, oxidative stress, lack of electrons. The clogging, that's the cholesterol. So cholesterol is released in response to damage, and the damage is triggered by eating foods that are harmful to you. So to get specific, so some groups, especially the hunters, genetically are not doing well with grains. So if you put the hunter type on a high grain diet, you're going to likely create a lot more of the cholesterol type of problem, the inflammatory problem. And so you have this fire burning inside of your circulatory system. And one of these days, it just goes flash.
Right.
I mean, it's funny with heart disease. The most common issue is that you have the first warning that you get, or the first inkling that you get, is a massive heart attack that you don't survive. Just like that. He was doing fine, and he's gone.
Wasn't doing fine, but you couldn't tell.
Couldn't tell. Well, all he had was a bit of cholesterol, no big deal. But listen, do not think that lowering the cholesterol with the favorite drug, Lipitor, is the ticket out of here. That's, lowering the cholesterol is sort of like turning off the siren on the car that's going by.
Mm.
You need to deal with the reason the cholesterol is rising, not the cholesterol itself. I have a better metaphor for this. The smoke. The smoke is coming through the window into the room. The breathing is hard, you can't see, whatever. If you take the medical approach, you're either going to be promoting fans or filters.
Right.
So
put a fan up, it'll take all the smoke out of the air and we'll be good.
Yeah, but you're taking the smoke out in your room.
Yeah, the house is still on fire.
The house is on fire, yeah.
I came across a video on Facebook. I don't know how it showed up on my feed, but it says it's an old video of the match guy and how he burnt his house down. And it shows this guy, and he's trying to get this match to go, and he finally gets it. And it was just like watching a catastrophe in slow motion. And when he gets it, the whole matchbook bursts into flames, and he's kind of like, and all his room it's just like there's books everywhere, right? And he's like, oh, and he just, and then all of a sudden there's this big flame coming up, and it just runs around and then goes up the back of his wall, and he's like trying to put it out, and then he runs to the kitchen and he gets this little pan, throws this little pan on, and then I couldn't watch it anymore because it had this little timer going at the bottom, right?
Yeah. So what you're describing is an avalanche, right? The snowflake that makes the snowball that starts the avalanche that destroys the village at the bottom of the hill, right?
Yeah, it was just funny. It was just like,
And so this is the flapping of the butterfly's wings that somewhere in China that starts the hurricane that takes out Los Angeles.
Yeah,
right.
The butterfly.
There are these tiny causes. I usually call them the last straw that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Which happened to us clearly. There are people who were fine, everything's fine, and then something happens and
not fine.
No more fine. Not just no more fine, broken.
Yeah.
I have this other story that I tell, which is, so you have the camel and you're loading him up for this caravan trip. So with 200 pounds on his back, he'll even run uphill. 300 pounds, he will walk uphill. 400 pounds, he won't go uphill. 500 pounds, at 600 pounds, you will just kneel down and he won't get up. 700 pounds, you'll break his back. Not only he will not go anywhere, he'll probably end up as hamburger.
Well, we don't want to end up as hamburger.
Well, or, like you have a camel that cannot ever work.
Right.
Again.
Right. Okay. So how does this, there's also autoimmune diseases. So how does this whole idea of being acidic and alkaline and having the right foods impact the autoimmune system?
Well, it's complicated. It's part of it, right? Like the autoimmune typically is a problem of total stress load. And so if you get past certain limit, your immune system flares up and it's too busy, or it's that the metaphor is that it's attacking itself. I don't know if that's true or not, because I don't have any proof that the pain in the joints that you're feeling is actually caused by the specialized bullets that the immune system is sending at you. But here's how the story is told. You have leaky gut. And because of the leaky gut, you have permeability. Instead of blocking the underdigested foods, you are creating openings through which bits of protein come through into your bloodstream. Your immune system sees it and identifies it and says, well, this is an ABB, whatever, string of amino acids. And it says that's not me, that's foreign. I have to attack it. Creates specialized bullets that shoot this AB. Well, it just happens to look exactly like your thyroid tissue. So, and whenever I shoot bullets like that, I'm also attacking the thyroid. Now you have Hashimoto's. And Hashimoto's means that your thyroid's either overactive or underactive, and it flips. It just gives you symptoms of both. Or if it's your tissue in your joints, you will get a label that you have rheumatoid arthritis, your joints start distorting and hurting and all of that. Or if it's attacking your eyes or your tear ducts and your salivary glands, you will have something called the Sjogren's, and you will have dry eyes, dry mouth, right. Whatever. I mean, I could come up with 20 different methods or illnesses that are autoimmune labeled that allegedly are caused by this.
So is that a factor of being too acidic or too alkaline?
It's neither. It's you have a leaky gut.
You have the leaky gut.
You got to the leaky gut through destruction of your microbiome, the terrain in your gut. The pH deals primarily with cancers. That definitely cancer territory is the tumors in the overly acidic, the lymphoma in the overly alkaline, diabetes. Primarily, you're eating diet that's too rich in carbs when you shouldn't be eating like that. Those are the diet and pH related things. The pH related problems, high acidity is loss of electrons. High alkalinity is overabundance of loose electrons. So there we are.
So when the doctor goes and he gives you a pill because you've got arthritis or some other autoimmune thing going on, I'm just, because we thought
it may correct it, it may not.
May or may not work.
Yeah, most likely it won't work because you're trying to suppress the symptoms instead of correcting the cause. I'm back to the smoke, the fans, and the filters. Instead of, where is this fire and what's feeding it?
And you already answered that. You said it's probably a leaky gut. So now we need to get the flora back into our system. We need to get our digestive system working properly. And
and what's causing the disruption? Typically toxic load, heavy metals, industrial toxins, viral load. The most common problem is the Epstein-Barr virus, but herpes, varicella, all these different viruses, they cause damage and leave the load on your little camel. It's the totality of it. It's not any one thing. And this is the other fallacy of the medical system, which when they investigate something, they say it has to be our thing that is the last straw or else it doesn't count. So I'm investigating this drug. If placing this drug on top of my camel broke him, then it works. Proof was made. If it isn't, if I have to put this thing and one other thing on it before he breaks, that didn't count. Again, that's a problem because the totality of it.
So they're looking at one little itty-bitty aspect when in fact there could be hundreds of different factors that come into the issue. Right.
Yeah, because dealing with the immune system is more like a game of football than it is like a game of tennis.
So you're in a place like Flint, Michigan that has totally bad water to the point where the governor has been asked to resign by all his constituents. And then you got that problem, and then you've got some plant somewhere that's spewing coal dust or mercury into the air or other noxious fumes, and then you decide that you like to eat soft drinks and potato chips, and you don't exercise, and then you also, when you do eat something good, it's the wrong type of food at the wrong type of day, which pushes you on to really too acidic or really too basic, and then you've eaten lots or you've taken lots of antibiotics, which has totally disrupted your internal flora. These are all potential factors in why you have whatever it is you have, but we've got this system in place that says you have X, and so you need to take pill B to solve it, because that works 2 times out of 100 compared to not doing anything in the placebo, which works 1 time out of 100.
Something like that. I mean, the numbers may be better than this. I mean, I use that horrendous example just to prove a point, but it would most likely be placebo works 33 out of 100, and drug works 55 or 45 out of 100. Which, when it's somewhere at the 50% mark, it only means that it's really useless, because statistically, you don't know which type you are.
Well, if it fixes someone half the time, or fixes a group of people half the time, or they all get, I mean, could they all get better regardless of the pill?
Well, that's a fine point. The important thing is this: a chemical drug only shifts the symptoms. You're doing treatment, not cure, not healing. You're treating something, and what you're doing is you're shifting the symptoms. The whack-a-mole.
Right.
Where you suppress something, not caring whether it pops up somewhere else. So my smoke metaphor is when you use a fan on the smoke, you're blowing it out the window without caring what caused it. Number one, you're blowing it into your next door neighbor's window. Number two, you still haven't taken care of the fire.
Yeah, the kitchen's still burning down, even though you're in the living room and breathing air that's not quite so bad as it was a minute ago.
Right. So that's the symptom shifting is just a temporary fix that may get you past this difficult period
for a while.
But unless and until you deal with the cause.
Right. So I'm 20, no problem. I got the window open, the fan. It's a little hot in the kitchen, but it's not burning that fast. When I'm 30, it's a little bit hotter in the kitchen, but I got 2 fans going, and it's not too bad. And then when I'm 40, it's like, I don't know. And then by the time I'm 50, I'm either had a heart attack or the place is burned down or I'm in real distress. And of course, I don't, because it happens over long periods of time, I don't associate all these things that I've done as patchworks, because no one tells you it's patchwork. No one says it's just dealing with the symptoms. It's like, oh, you've got this spot here. It's a pill. That'll fix you. I take the pill. I don't feel it anymore, or I feel worse, and they give me a different pill. And then 20 or 30 years go by, and you just basically burnt out your whole house without even realizing.
Right. That's the metaphor for explaining how the medical system or approach causes you to spiral from wherever you are, always closer to the ultimate outcome, which unfortunately we will all face, which is dying.
Right.
But how will you get there? What will the last few years, last X years look like?
Yeah, when some people that we talk to, the next, they're 30, and the next 40, 50, 60 years don't look very good because they're in great pain, they have no energy, the brain is not working very well.
Yeah, it's quite sad because, like my own personal case, right? Like I have some heritage, genetic heritage that's challenging. I have the undermethylation genetic problem. So I don't detoxify well, and my energy conversion or food conversion into energy is not that great either. And then in my 20s, I got poisoned with mercury. And that set me up for a world of challenges that to this day I'm dealing with.
You still deal with, yeah.
Sort of like this. When you crack a jar, you can glue it back together, but it sure isn't going to be as good as new.
Yeah, it's still cracked.
No, I'm a cracked jar.
Cracked jar. We're all cracked jars, I think.
Right. Well, yeah, some of us more so than others.
That's right.
So the fallacy of the double-blind study is this. You can set up the data such that you can make a strong point with weak data. Number two, your statistical sample, depending on who is actually taking these test drugs, will determine the data coming out from the study.
Right.
And you, as the consumer of this product, will not necessarily get the expected effect. You may be in the side effect group because you don't know how this affects the physiology. And they don't test on physiology. They don't ask the question, is this person, as I showed early on in the graph, are you dominant in the oxidizing system or in the autonomic? And are you starting your day as alkaline or acidic?
Right.
And when you know that, you can predict how things will affect you. When you don't know that, it's just a crapshoot, Russian roulette.
So there's a learning curve to the whole thing, but it's well worth figuring it out.
Absolutely. When you know, you know. And if you really want to know, learn the kinesiology.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's called the truth technique. When you know and apply and use a truth technique, there's no fooling you anymore. You can apply it in your life like this. The statement I just heard the speaker make is true. Not. Or yes.
Yeah.
It's really entertaining watching politicians talk, I tell you.
Well, and the body doesn't lie. That's the big thing that they say in applied kinesiology, right? The body is always going to tell you the truth. And we don't always want to hear the truth. That's a big part of the problem.
Yep. And we also need to learn how to properly phrase the statements.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything else. You need to learn, you need to practice, and then you need to adjust as you learn more and as you practice more. Awesome. So, Martin, if somebody wants to know more about metabolic typing, they want to know more about how they can see if they're more acidic or more alkaline, depending on what they eat. They want to know how they can maybe address some of the causes of the discomforts they may be feeling as opposed to masking the symptoms. What should they do?
Visit our website. It's life-enthusiast.com.
Okay.
Or call. We're here, 866-543-3388. Give us a call. We're taking calls from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific time.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much, Martin, for taking time out of your busy day to share this information. It's been fascinating as usual. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate having you along on this journey. This has been the Life Enthusiast Health Online TV podcast and blab. We're so excited to be blabbing and then rebroadcasting it on our YouTube channel and on our podcast channel. So join us on any one of those places. Head over to www.life-enthusiast.com, right down there, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.